and white trash talking.
Hi, I'm Doug Johnson, and this is White Trash Talking. Before I begin, please hit the like and subscribe buttons. Israel is waging brutal wars in the Middle East, is driving the world economy over the edge, and is now a pariah state. To understand Israel, it's necessary to know its origins and to understand the Zionist movement that spawned it. Zionism began with Theodor Herzl in 1897 and came about through the Balfour Declaration in 1918. There were several motivations for creating Israel, the primary one being the Zionist goal of establishing a Jewish homeland where Jews from around the world could escape persecution. That need became more urgent after World War I, and in 1948, the state of Israel was carved out of Palestinian land. The problem was that Palestinians were displaced in order to accommodate the influx of Jews, causing conflict from day one. Another problem is Zionism's ethnocentric ideology. The basic law of Zionism states that the right to national self-determination is, quote, unique to the Jewish people, end quote, which effectively subordinates the rights and status of non-Jews and Palestinians. Over time, racism towards Arabs has grown more fanatic, as reflected in the illegal occupation and seizure of more and more Palestinian land. This graphic shows Palestine on the left, as it was originally. To the right of it, we see the new state of Israel, which comprised over half of original Palestine. The third image is Israel in 1967, upon winning the Six-Day War with Egypt, Jordan, and Syria, after which Israel began its military occupation of Palestine. The image on the far right is Israel in 2012, after it built separation walls inside Palestinian territory, made exclusive roads and highways, and restricted Palestinians' movement to within assigned zones, Zone A, B, C, and D, which effectively made Israel an apartheid state. To this day, Palestinian land keeps shrinking as Israeli settlers flood the West Bank. This occupation violates a number of UN resolutions, making it illegal under international law. Here's a map of Greater Israel, which Israelis openly declare is their ultimate goal. Notice that Palestinians are wiped clean from the map, and notice the encroachment into Egypt, Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, Saudi Arabia, etc. So what's going on with Israel? Here is Max Blumenthal, a gifted, award-winning journalist who happens to be Jewish, summarizing the current state of affairs regarding Israel and asking, what's next?
Anyone who's paying close attention to this, who still has their critical faculties, understands that Israel is an anachronistic state. It's a high-tech nuclearized colonial state that exists out of place in history and outside the reality of normal international relations, and wants to just unravel international law as a matter of its own survival, has no borders, it refuses to set borders, is perpetually occupying millions of people who actually comprise a majority between the river and the sea. And so this lunatic rogue state, in order to maintain its ethno-supremacist character, is prone to some dastardly acts and is capable of anything. I don't think we've seen the worst of what Israel's capable of. So what will it do when its back is against the wall? Well, I don't want to speculate. I just know that's where so many people's minds are going right now as Israel grows increasingly desperate. And we see, for example, a former IDF Persian language spokesman declare that America needs a new Pearl Harbor to understand what the stakes are. And so we really have to be asking what they're capable of with their backs increasingly against the wall. And we have to be documenting it and pushing our leadership to do something to restrain this psychotic state. Israel has a secret nuclear program. Its Samson option, in which it could use that nuclear program as blackmail against the West. And it's time to educate the public about the threat Israel poses. It's an apocalyptic threat. As we also explain how necessary it is to dismantle its apartheid system, which really is at the core of the global economic crisis that's afflicting almost everyone on the planet right now.
Now that the US and Israel have essentially lost the war with Iran, although it continues on and off, and Trump struggles to extricate the US and end the fighting, Israel now finds itself in uncharted territory. Max Blumenthal details the new reality facing Israel.
And so this leaves Israel alone. And now Israel is left more exposed than it has been probably at any point since the Suez Crisis and the 1956 war. And that means the Zionist movement is also exposed. And everything they say comes crashing against the hard rocks of the reality that the 99% experiences in the United States and around the world of economic calamity brought on by their war, and more people are waking up to the fact that this was essentially a Zionist war. Zionists don't understand this, though. They don't understand why everyone's mad at them. They actually see this as a form of persecution, as anti-Semitism. And they're not sharpening or honing their messaging. They're not able to cope with a popular mayor in New York City like Mahmoud Mamdani actually campaigning openly against AIPAC. More and more candidates in the US are campaigning against AIPAC. The level of opposition to Israel in Pew and Gallup polls is surging right now to record levels. It's like, I think over 80% of registered Democrats oppose sending aid to Israel at this point. The American public wants to cut Israel off. And the Israel's lobbying tentacles and the Zionist movement as a whole is not able to adjust its messaging or to cope with this reality. I think Israel will press ahead, though, with destabilization activities. They may try to launch another war, perhaps after the World Cup, and assume that the U.S. will join them as they did during the 12-day war to rescue them. This war would increase the pressure on Donald Trump to do something. But one thing that they have no strategy for, and that they're not prepared for, and which they cannot stomach at all, is the loss of support of the American public and growing elements within the U.S. political establishment.
Israel is not adapting militarily as well, as it struggles to cope with military resistance by Hamas in Gaza and by Hezbollah in southern Lebanon, where Israel is looking to flatten every civilian home and commit genocide. The website, the Electronic Intifada, shows the FPV drones that Hezbollah has unleashed on the invading Israelis. FPV means first-person video, which means you can watch the drone fly through the air and strike its targets. I'm going to show you some of that now, just to give you an example of what Israel is facing and their inability to hit the off switch in terms of invading other countries. Okay, here's the drone image. It's pursuing a military vehicle from behind in southern Lebanon. It strikes the vehicle. This is in slow motion. The vehicle is destroyed, and here's a photo put out by the Israeli press of that vehicle destroyed. Okay, here's another example. Again, the drone is pursuing a vehicle with a soldier inside. This is a car on a military base. And the drone strikes the car and explodes. These will begin to pick up in pace. Here's another military vehicle exploded. Here's another one. Hezbollah is releasing thousands of these, tens of thousands. Here is a launching site. of missiles, and the drone circles around this protective wall and finds its target, which is the missiles themselves on a launcher. These are million-dollar missiles, and destroys it. Here they're attacking soldiers at night. The Israelis think they're safe at night, but these drones have night vision, and the soldiers are killed. And here's another example of that happening. So this is what Israel is facing as it invades southern Lebanon, yet it will not stop. It does not have an off switch. So where does Israel stand now? Max Blumenthal summarizes the ultimate aim of Zionism compared to what they have actually achieved.
And so the idea there is that Israel will provide a class of Jews who enter their undefined militarized frontiers with a first world standard of living in which they will enjoy total security. And any challenge to that must be treated with ruthless force. As Moshe Dayan, the former Israeli chief of staff, said in, I think it was the early 50s, that we cannot plow a field or build a house without the cannon and the steel helmet. So it's a completely colonial mindset in which any challenge to total European-style security has to be basically treated with genocidal force. But they did that after October 7th, and they mobilized the whole of their society, the reservists, everyone, to carry out this genocide, and yet they still are in a state of vulnerability in which at any moment Iran could rain down ballistic missiles, and the supposedly impenetrable Iron Dome and the Arrow system and all of the THAAD missiles that the US brought to bear, repositioned from Asia and Ukraine, did not stop them. And so there is this constant sense of insecurity in Israel, which really erodes the very purpose of Zionism. So Zionism has failed.
When you consider the aim of Greater Israel, which requires taking substantial amounts of land from nearly all of their neighbors and removing the Arab populations by committing genocide, we face the prospect of never-ending war and possibly nuclear war. Is there any hope that Israel will ever behave normally? Right now, I can't see it. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and feel free to comment. I'll see you next time. Bye.